My grandfather was in the army, but he was not very educated, so he was a non-commissioned officer. He retired as Havaldar. And my father, late father, was determined to go beyond what my grandfather was. So he became a fighter pilot in the Air Force and resigned to join public life. And I was thinking to myself some years ago that my grandfather was in the armed forces, my father was in the armed forces, and I went to an Air Force school. So I had that whole armed forces defense background, and I wanted to also become a part of that. So I joined the TA, but not as a ceremonial sort of, they give these posts out to a lot of celebrities, etc. I went the whole 9 yards. I did the exam. I went to the SSB. I got my full commission in 2012, and I was in the government of India at that time. So it became a bit of a problem because as a minister in the government of India, your protocol is higher than those in the army. And I was not getting a commission by the defense minister, Mr. Antony, who was defense minister. But I finally got my commission, and I'm serving now in the 124 Sikh unit of the TA, which is housed near India Gate. But I'm very happy that I was able to don the olive uniform as a third generation. So I'm quite happy and proud about that, and hopefully I'll become colonel soon.
Many congratulations on that, and thank you for everyone here, and thank you for your service. Sachin, but you bring up a nice segue to move from geopolitics and the interests of nations in terms of determining foreign policy to interests in what I would say is your profession, politics. We're sitting in the All India Management Association, which is the apex body for management, but it is also the spokesman for the Indian manager and leader. And here we delve upon subjects through the lens of management principles, and you yourself have studied at the finest of institutions. What is the view of politicians themselves, and what is the view of political parties with theories of management? Or do they ascribe to them? Do we look at organizational structures in any manner? What is the evolution of this? And what is your personal view on this subject? I'd like to then move on from that subject, so that my chain of thought would be to move into some more pointed questions on problems that face Indian corporates and how those may be akin in political parties, such as family succession or the motivation over multiple generations to be aligned towards management principles. And then lastly, I'd like to then come to your views on the aspirations of the Indian youth.
So you're right. I think it's a tough one. How do you align principles of management, good governance, etc., on political parties? A good manager doesn't have to belong to a corporate entity. A good manager could work for NGO, could work for the government, could work for any agency in the world. It's the traits of the individual that matter. And the surroundings that you recognize and can deftly adapt to. In politics, it's the reaction time is 1 millisecond. In the boardroom, you have multiple views. You can solicit ideas. You can act upon it, and your efforts and your ROE, the return on effort, is what it is. But in politics, sometimes it's things and circumstances beyond your control. You do your best, but your talent, your hard work, your motivation, your results sometimes may not align with the rewards that you get. So when you come into public life, you have to be very mindful that it's not quid pro quo. You will not get rewarded for exactly what you've done because there are other forces at play. You talked about generational shifts in families, in the corporate sector, and in public life, in politics. There, I have to say, it's a lot more tougher than transferring shares or appointing somebody on the board. You may have some pushback, but ultimately, the shareholding will prevail. In public life, it's different because it's not the board members or the shareholders; it's the actual constituents and citizens which decide whether you're capable to run for office or not, whether you will get voted in or not. And if you get voted in once, there is no guarantee that if you don't perform, you'll get voted back in again. In the corporate sector, as long as you have good managers, and I see now a lot of families have just become owners and they're given the management of it to CEOs and MDs, etc., and they hire professionally, which is another way of doing it. But in politics, it can't be done. You can't outsource. You have to go to the people. You have to, every 5 years, fold your hand and ask for another 5 years. So it's much more testing in that sense. I won't say it's more satisfying, but yes, certainly you feel a sense of achievement if you are able to deliver on certain things. Small things, Nikhil. It's not really about changing India, but in your own constituency, in people that you have influence over, if you can negotiate and you can implement even a small change of just drinking water facility or a roadway connectivity or a school or infrastructure project, it gives you that satisfaction. It's difficult to compare, and I think one should not compare. I think everybody works hard, but one thing stands true. If you have integrity, if you're honest, if you're hardworking, no matter what profession you follow, whether it's being a politician or being a good manager, people will see it. And no good work or hard work ever goes to waste. So ultimately, if you're diligent and you're working hard, वो हिंदी में कहावत है कि जब दूध को उबालते हैं तो मलाई जमती है, जब दूध ठंडा होता है तो मलाई हमेशा ऊपर ही आती है. So ultimately, you will prevail and you'll come out on top if you keep persistently working hard.
No, I've seen that with you. You are a tremendously hard worker, and very frankly, Sachin returned from Armenia this morning on a 12-hour flight with a 6-hour layover. So thank you very much for being here and keeping to your commitment. But Sachin, in this day and age of very vast, very quick technology changes, businesses are adopting that change very quickly. How do you see politics changing both with technology as well as with thought? The principles of leadership and accountability are very clear, and you've alluded to them very well. But how do you see that changing with the nature of technology? Do you see citizens demanding more from a sense of accountability from the politicians, given the changes that are happening in society with these technologies?
So I think one must understand, Nikhil, and I think all of you also, I'll just take 1 minute. When we think of politics,